The story begins with Arata Toma reflecting on his past. He recalls the memories from 6 years ago that still linger vividly in his heart. In that dull and painful life, he remembers having only one hero. That hero was none other than his big brother Ryu. The scene shifts to 6 years earlier, when Arata was just 11 years old. He was washing dishes while his brother, who was 12 at the time, helped beside him. During the washing, one plate slipped from Arata's hands and broke. Fear struck him as he thought to himself that their mother would once again beat him harshly for the accident. His mother entered the room in anger. She scolded him bitterly, asking if he wanted to be sent back to the nursing home. She reminded him that they had said he could at least help with the housework, yet she considered him useless. Terrified, Arata apologized, but his mother ordered him to take the trash out immediately. He quietly agreed. As Arata continued his chores, thoughts filled his mind. He told himself that his big brother could do everything, and he alone felt unworthy of living in that house. But when he looked up, he saw Ryu cleaning the dirt, and his brother winked at him with a smile. With cheerful encouragement, Ryu suggested that they take the trash out together. Arata felt a faint smile return to his face and agreed. The brothers went outside to throw away the garbage side by side. Arata reflects that his big brother was the only one he could truly open up to. Ryu always guided him and gave him comfort. Later, Arata sat watching television when a news report appeared on screen. The broadcast announced the Slayer's magic beast subjugation, praising the rising star Mr. Kisaragi, who had successfully defeated a silver-rank demon. Filled with excitement, Arata admired Slayers. He thought of them as amazing people who fought to protect the world. But his mother suddenly appeared behind him and demanded to know what he was doing. Fear returned to Arata's face. She kicked him, furious that he had been told to do the laundry, but instead was watching television. She called him a useless brat. Arata, consumed by anger, glared back at his mother. She noticed his look and raised her hand to slap him, but Ryu stepped in. The strike landed on Ryu's cheek instead, and without hesitation he took Arata with him out of the room. Arata thought once again that his big brother was his hero, someone who always protected him, yet guilt filled him. He felt that Ryu was suffering hardships only because of him. The two brothers later sat on the stairs together. Arata, gathering his courage, told his brother something embarrassing. He confessed his true dream, that he wanted to become a slayer. He admitted that while it might not happen right now, once he became one, he would escape that place, take Ryu with him, and protect him. Ryu smiled warmly, placed his hand on Arata's shoulder, and reassured him. He told him that he could achieve it with his kindness and unshakable strength. Standing tall, Ryu declared that their training should begin that very day. Arata narrates how he trained like crazy to become a slayer, with his brother always cheering for him. He truly believed that one day it would be possible. Those days, filled with effort and hope, became the happiest and most fulfilling time of his life. Yet, he recalls with heavy sorrow, he would never forget the day when everything changed. One afternoon, the brothers sat together when Arata discovered a glowing orb. Ryu's eyes welled up with tears of joy as he embraced his younger brother. He cried that God had seen Arata's efforts, and that his dream had finally come true. To Ryu, it felt as if he himself had won. He declared that Arata had been rewarded with a top-tier gold orb, a rare water attribute light orb. But before they could celebrate, their father appeared and seized the orb. He demanded to know where Arata had gotten something so valuable. He claimed it for himself, saying it was too good for someone like Arata. He insisted that he would keep it safe and would not let anything happen to it. Ryu shouted that the orb belonged to Arata, but their father kicked him in anger. He raged that what belonged to Arata was his and his alone. Arata cried out desperately for his brother as their father took the orb away, declaring that he would sell it for a high price. Arata narrates the bitter truth he learned. Bad people always took away what was precious without asking. No matter how many times it happened, the pain never faded, and he could never get used to it. He vowed never to forget. Their father later went to the Goto Corporation, where he sold Arata's orb to Takura for 30 million. Time shifted once again, 6 years into the future. Arata and Ryu sat watching television. The news reported about Takura of the Goto Corporation, describing him not only as an influential figure in the business world, but also as a brilliant slayer. His presence, both at home and abroad, drew attention everywhere. The report praised him as the brightest new star, one who would save the world. Arata muttered in disbelief about how amazing Takatura's accomplishments were. Ryu responded that being both a wealthy second-generation heir and a slayer was unbelievable. During the report, a reporter asked Takura what kind of orb he had seen back then. Takura proudly displayed his orb, a golden sphere glowing with a blue ring. He described the thrill and excitement he felt when it had chosen him, claiming that it belonged to him alone. Arata and Ryu froze as they watched. They both realized the truth. In all of Japan, there was only one golden orb of that type. It meant that Takura held Arata's stolen orb. Their suspicions confirmed, they understood that their corrupt father had sold it to him. Arata thought bitterly that if he had gotten back that orb, he would have already become a slayer. Then doubts filled his mind, wondering if it had been impossible from the very start. Ryu, enraged, urged Arata to go with him to retrieve the orb, insisting that Takura had cheated his way into becoming a slayer. The brothers went to the Goto Corporation. Takatura's staff informed him Though he initially claimed to be busy, he allowed them in. Arata narrates how they asked about Tsubasa Toma, who had visited before, and because of that connection, they were granted entry. Arata realized then that Takura truly was connected to his father. Seeing Takura in person, Arata thought to himself that this was the man. Ryu introduced himself politely as Ryo, the son of Tsubasa Toma, and declared that he had come to reclaim the gold orb their father had traded away. Takura feigned ignorance, asking what trade they were talking about. Ryu, filled with anger, accused him directly. He told him not to play dumb, because he hadn't earned the orb himself. Takura quickly caught on, and asked what they really wanted. He wondered aloud if it was money. Ryu refused, and said they only wanted the orb, for it belonged to his brother. Takura pushed them forward, insisting he wanted them to see something. Ryu resisted, demanding the orb instead, but Takura led them into a dark room, where a sinister magical fissure radiating negative energy awaited. The brothers were shocked at the sight. Takura left them there, locking them in. With disdain, he thought to himself that he had no time to waste on the poor. He declared inwardly that they should scatter like dust, like the wretched beings they were. Arata pounded on the door, shouting curses at Takura and demanding it be opened. Panic filled his thoughts as he realized what awaited them. At this rate, they would be consumed by the dark soul and transformed into magic beasts. The fissure surged forward, heading toward Arata, but Ryu shoved him aside. The corruption pierced Ryu's body instead. Tears welled up as Ryu asked his brother if he was okay. He urged Arata to listen, telling him that he would become a top-tier slayer one day. Arata screamed out his brother's name, his voice filled with despair. The corruption spread, and Ryu transformed into a beast before his eyes. Arata collapsed to the ground, devastated. He blamed himself for everything. He thought it was his fault, and he asked why it had happened, where it had gone wrong. He questioned if it was because he had dreamed of becoming a slayer, or because he had wished to reclaim his orb. He tormented himself with guilt, wondering if all of it was his responsibility. But then, clarity burned inside him. He realized it was not his fault. The blame lay with the selfish people who had stolen everything from him. Flames of vengeance ignited within Arata's eyes. Then, to his shock, he saw the corrupted beast transform into an orb. He stared at it in disbelief, wondering if what he saw truly was an orb. Arata reached out toward the orb, his mind filled with determination. The orb that had once been out of his reach was now within his grasp. This time, he claimed it as his own. He vowed to become a slayer. The moment his hand touched the orb, a surge of negative aura energy erupted from within. Arata screamed in pain as his teeth transformed, resembling those of a vampire, and his eyes glowed a deep, menacing red. The system window appeared before him with a notification. It declared that he had received the protection of the demon realm. Another notification followed, showing the list of skills acquired. Blast Shadow Blade at level 1, Blast Armor at level 1, and Blast Flash at level 1. Elsewhere, Takura laughed to himself, reveling in his own strength. He thought that both of them would now turn into Magai and become nothing more than fodder for his level up. He felt himself growing stronger and stronger. To him, this was the price they paid for defying him. He called them worthless peasants, destined to die regretting that they had ever forgotten their place. He reminded them, even in their absence, that they were never on the same level as him. To Takura, the matter was solved. Just like that, problem solved. Meanwhile, Arata continued to change. His body threatened to take on the form of a beast, but just as quickly, he returned to his normal human state. Confusion filled his mind as he wondered what had just happened. At that moment, his brother, who had already transformed into a beast, lunged toward him in a violent attack. Arata reacted instinctively, leaping out of the way and dodging with unexpected speed. Shock spread through him. He realized he had moved on pure instinct. This was completely different from before. His body now felt so light. Before him, another system window appeared, showing his level, his health bar, and other stats. He wondered if he had truly become a slayer. Ryu, still consumed by his beast form, charged forward again. Arata cried out, desperate to reach him. He called for his brother to calm down, begging him not to become a magic beast, not to let it consume him. The system showed a progress indicator, 83%. Arata swore that this time it was his turn to save his brother. No matter what, he vowed he would save him. His cries for his brother filled the air. The beast halted suddenly, letting out a roar. Instead of striking, it turned and slammed its fist into the wall, breaking a hole through it before fleeing. Arata stood stunned. His thoughts raced as he wondered if his brother had just stopped his attack and run away. He realized it might be possible that his brother had not yet completely turned into a magic beast, but the system again showed 83%. Arata knew this was bad. If his brother reached the town and attacked someone else, the consequences would be disastrous. He needed to find him before he was subjugated. He readied himself to give chase, but his attention was caught by the magic fissure ahead. From the fissure, a giant boar and a giant snake emerged. The massive boar charged at him, forcing him into a defensive stance. Though the attack did not cause serious harm, Arata recognized the danger and cursed the distraction. He knew he had no time for this. The boar struck again with overwhelming force, sending Arata crashing into a wall so hard that it cracked beneath the impact. The strike had been powerful enough to send him flying. Arata realized he had underestimated the strength of a magic boar's attack. He knew he had to end this fight quickly, so he could go after his brother. He reminded himself that he was now a slayer. With his new skill, he could take it down. Flames of aura erupted from within him. Black powder filled the air around him, making him pause. He realized it was the blast, exactly as described on his status screen. The power of the blast itself. Out of the black powder, the boar reappeared, charging again at full speed. Arata braced himself. His thoughts raced as fear clawed at him. His body trembled at the idea that after finally becoming a slayer, he might die here without achieving anything. He dreaded the possibility of dying without saving his brother. At that desperate moment, energy surged from his body. His eyes glowed red again, radiating power. With those eyes fixed on the beast, the giant boar screamed in terror before collapsing, dead at his feet. Arata's eyes returned to normal as he opened them again. Before him lay the lifeless body of the boar. Confusion clouded his mind as he wondered what had just happened, questioning if he had been the one to kill it. The system answered him with another notification. He had leveled up. Arata spoke to himself, realizing it was because he had beaten the creature. He wondered if this meant his stats were now stronger. But then he shook off the thought. None of that mattered right now. The only thing that mattered was finding his brother. He swore that he would never forgive the one responsible. Determined, Arata rushed through the hole in the wall, heading onto the road to search for Ryu. But exhaustion overcame him, and in the middle of the road, he collapsed and fell unconscious. Elsewhere, Takura entered the room where he had once kept Arata and Ryu confined. He asked if those who had turned into magic beasts should now be subjugated. His eyes scanned the room, but no one was there. All that remained was the lingering black powder. He noticed the wall had been destroyed. Gritting his teeth, he thought about the ones who had turned into magic beasts. To him, they were nothing more than strong bronze-rank scrubs. There was no way someone like that could have broken the wall. His anger rose as he realized the truth. It couldn't be, but the possibility gnawed at him. Arata drifted into a dream where memories of his brother Ryu filled his mind. He saw fragments of the time they had spent together. Suddenly, the dream shattered, and he opened his eyes to find himself lying in a bed. Confusion washed over him as he wondered how he had ended up there. He recalled going to the Go-To Conglomerate's building, then remembered fighting just moments ago. Urgency struck him as he thought of his brother, fearing something terrible might happen in the middle of the city. His thoughts were interrupted when a nurse rushed in, scolding him to stay lying down. Startled, he stammered, but before he could explain, the green-haired nurse told him they had received a call saying he had collapsed on the roadside. She pointed out that his wounds clearly came from fighting a Magai. Arata realized what had truly happened to him. He asked her about the place he was in, and the nurse explained that it was a Slayer relief station. She told him such cases were common, with rookies often going overboard in their first fights. Arata thought about the station, wondering who could have brought him all the way there, but quickly decided there were more important matters to focus on. The nurse questioned him further, recognizing he was a rookie who didn't even have a badge. She advised him to join a guild as soon as possible, warning that without support from a guild and the Slayer Association, he would not survive. Arata insisted that he had somewhere he needed to be, but she sternly told him to rest. Before long, someone called her from outside, and she told Arata to wait there before leaving the room. Moments later, Arata overheard voices outside. Two people were speaking about the Magai that had appeared near the Go-To Conglomerate, saying it was still at large. At once, Arata's thoughts turned to his brother. The news about him had already spread this far. The men continued speaking, mentioning reports of an unidentified slayer accompanying Magai. They discussed the guild's search and worried that if he entered a magic fissure, they might not be able to handle him. Arata's mind raced as he realized the guild was after his brother. If things continued like this, they would attempt to subjugate him. He resolved to find his brother quickly and protect him. Soon after, the nurse returned to his bed, apologizing for the delay. She asked if he had filed for his reward money, reminding him that some people forgot from time to time. But when she looked at the bed, Arata was gone, leaving her in shock. Arata had already slipped away, running through the halls with determination. He thought about the chance that his brother might be inside a magic fissure, and decided he had no choice but to comb through them one by one. Suddenly, an announcement echoed across the city. A magic fissure had appeared, and the target area was Asajiri. Residents were ordered to evacuate immediately. Arata's heart pounded as he thought about the timing. It could only mean one thing. Before him, a magic fissure opened. A system window appeared, displaying the words, Magic Fissure Tahaji. The clear difficulty was ranked bronze. Arata observed that a barrier had already been set up to seal the evil soul, which meant someone from the association had arrived. But no slayers had shown up yet, which gave him hope that his brother might be hiding inside. Though it was his first time entering a fissure, and the bronze rank filled him with hesitation, he forced down the fear. Every slayer had gone through this before him, and he resolved to step forward. He entered the fissure as the system window confirmed commencement of the capture. Inside, the world looked entirely different from outside, its strange atmosphere pressing on him. He thought he would only know the truth if he went deeper. Another system message appeared, stating the mission: defeat the boss and eliminate the magic fissure. The mention of a boss meant that it would be waiting in the deepest part. his magic beasts guarding the way. Doubts filled him about whether he could actually defeat them. His path was blocked when a level 3 Garm appeared before him. Shock struck him as he remembered defeating one the day before without realizing it. But this time he knew he had to face it head-on. He decided to push forward, cutting down the smaller enemies along the way. His only plan for now was to use the skill he had. He summoned his weapon, the Soot Shadow Blade, and felt a rush of relief when it appeared successfully. The Garm attacked fiercely. Arita raised his blade and clashed with it. But the beast bit down on the weapon with strength, forced backward. He realized that even a weak enemy carried overwhelming pressure. Still, he reminded himself that he had trained alongside his brother for this very moment. With renewed determination, he advanced, slashing his blade until the Garm was torn apart. A system notification confirmed his growth, showing his level rise from 3 to 5. But more Garms soon appeared, surrounding him. He panicked at the sight, realizing how terrifying bronze-ranked monsters could be. At his current level, he doubted his ability to defeat all of them and reach the boss. The thought of them attacking all at once filled him with dread, yet he knew he had no choice but to fight. He longed to use the mysterious skill from yesterday, but his trembling hands betrayed him. He could not figure out how to activate it. His stamina began to drain rapidly, and despair clawed at him. The Garms tore into him, and he screamed in pain. At that moment, flames erupted around him, incinerating the beasts instantly. Someone had appeared, wielding a power far beyond his own. Arita looked up to see the figure. His right arm was armored with a radiant golden gauntlet embedded with a glowing red gem, its design resembling a blazing sun. Flames and sparks surrounded his body, his presence commanding and powerful. His serious expression burned with intensity as he addressed Arita, remarking on the strange skill he had just attempted. Arita thought about the technique, amazed at its strength, and wondered if this man had been the one to unleash it. The figure stood tall, radiating fiery energy, and revealed that he had received a call from the association about an unidentified slayer. He demanded to know if Arita was the one. Arita noticed that the fiery man was not alone. 2 others stood beside him. He studied them carefully, realizing the man was a fire attribute gold slayer accompanied by 2 silver slayers. Their identities were soon revealed. The first was Leo Kuji, gold slayer of the Shurin Guild. The second was Shu Makishima, silver slayer of the Shurin Guild. The third was Hayato Akaji, also a silver slayer of the Shurin Guild. Arita looked at them with unease. He wondered what they were doing in a place like this and recognized the name Lord Sia, one of the 5 emperors. Before he could think further, more Garms appeared from behind the slayers. Kuji sighed in irritation, snapping his fingers and unleashing divine descent. In an instant, the beasts were consumed in flames and reduced to ashes. Arata's eyes widened with shock as he witnessed the overwhelming might of a gold slayer. Kuji examined the situation, noting that this many monsters appearing in a bronze-ranked demon rift was clearly abnormal. He then turned his attention toward Arita, questioning the strange skill he had used. Arita glanced at his blade, uncertain. He wondered what this so-called skill was. It had not felt like any of the 5 attributes, and if that was true, then he had no idea what it could possibly be. Kuji stepped closer, remarking that he had never seen such a thing before. He noted that Arita was unaffiliated, a stray without ties. He pressed him further, demanding to know what brought him here. Arita hesitated. He questioned whether Kuji was probing him. If he revealed that he was searching for his brother, he feared they would mark him for subjugation. It was safer to stay quiet and move on. Flustered, he quickly excused himself, thanked them for the help, and tried to leave. Kuji observed him carefully. He reflected that orbs formed by resonating with a person's strength and their deepest wish, almost like answering a prayer, most aligned with one of the 5 closest attributes. But this boy's power was different. Kuji's thoughts confirmed his suspicion. He declared that Arita was the unidentified slayer the association had mentioned, the one they called the Irregular. A smirk spread across his face. Arita turned back, confused at the word. He asked what irregular meant, but insisted that he had to go. Kuji's fiery aura surged. He conjured flames in his hand and admitted that he had no intention of following the association's orders. Still, they had told him to secure Arita for investigation. He warned that it was nothing personal. Kuji launched a blazing punch. Arita raised his blade and blocked, startled by the sudden attack. Confusion filled his mind as he wondered what was happening. Kuji noticed the boy's blade burn away into cinders under the heat. He then told Shu and Hayato that the boy was his to handle. The 2 silver slayers obeyed instantly. Hayato whispered that it was dangerous, for if Kuji got serious, they too could be caught in the fire. Kuji unleashed a volley of fireballs, raining destruction on Arita. Forced to hide behind a rock, Arita listened as Kuji laughed, warning that surrender would only leave him as nothing but cinders. Arita gritted his teeth, realizing that if he were caught now, he would never find his brother, and everything would end there. Kuji roared that hiding would not save him, and with a wave of flames, burned the rock to ashes. Arita collapsed from the impact, gasping in pain. He quickly opened his system window, desperate for a way out. He reminded himself that escaping and hiding would not help. There had to be some skill that could save him. The interface revealed a new option, and Arata's eyes lit up with determination as he thought this one might work. Rising to his feet, he extended his hand forward. Kuji mocked not burn twice. Kuji blinked in surprise, realizing the boy was not just some weakling destined to turn to ash. Yet he warned that this was the end. More flames gathered in his hand, stronger than before, as he told Arata to surrender. Arata's eyes burned with defiance. He could not surrender, not while his brother was waiting for him. He had to save him. The mention of a brother caught Kuji's attention, distracting him for a moment. Seizing the opportunity, Arata lunged forward and struck with his blade. Kuji raised his arm and blocked, taken aback by the sudden burst of willpower. Arata did not stay to fight further. He turned and moved away, determined to leave. Kuji called out after him, telling him that if he wanted to protect someone, he needed to defeat the Fisher's boss. He had to level up no matter what. What he had just done was reckless, and at this pace he would burn out quickly. Arata gave a small smile and thanked him for the advice. Kuji told him to keep that fire burning and train hard. Arata departed, vanishing deeper into the fissure. Shu and Hayato approached Kuji, reporting that the magic beasts in the area had been subdued. They asked about the boy, curious about what had happened. Kuji only smiled, saying that the boy had been fiery. The two Silver Slayers exchanged looks, wondering if their leader was in an unusually good mood. Kuji ended the matter there, telling his team it was time to move and crush the Fisher boss. Meanwhile, elsewhere, an announcement rang out in the Navy Guild. A magic Fisher alert had been issued. A Fisher had appeared in Shirjino Forchon. Urgency filled the air as orders were given. A girl was asked if she could handle it. She responded with determination. Her identity was revealed as Adi Ikiyomi, Silver Slayer of the Navy Guild. Arata reached the place where the news about the magic Fisher had come from. He thought about the report and realized that in the end, he still could not find his brother. The system window had displayed the message that the magic Fisher boss was defeated and instructed all to exit the Fisher within 10 seconds. Arata believed that Ryo was probably the one who had taken it down. At the same time, announcements were being made. The Slayer Association and the Guild declared that they would protect everyone as best they could and asked for immediate reports if anything unusual happened. Arata, however, thought bitterly that such words were meaningless now. If orders were ever given to capture the phenomenon, he knew he could not rely on the association or the guild. He understood that he would have to handle it himself. Suddenly, another announcement echoed with urgency. A magic Fisher alert was declared again. Arata realized it was happening once more. Everyone's phones buzzed at the same time with warnings. A new Fisher was occurring in Shirjino District 4, and residents nearby were told to evacuate immediately until Slayers arrived. The repeated alerts filled the air, and panic spread. People rushed in all directions, desperately trying to save their lives. Arata thought quickly. Shirjino District 4 was close. Normally, the association would send Slayers immediately and seal off the area. He understood that he had to reach it before other Slayers showed up. Without hesitation, he started running. As he hurried forward, another Fisher suddenly opened right in front of him. The system window appeared, announcing a new magic Fisher named Hesant, marked with a difficulty level of bronze. Arata realized this was his chance. The area had not been sealed off or cleared yet. He could only hope that his brother was inside. Before he could act, someone stopped him, warning him that this Fisher was off limits. Two bronze-tier Slayers from the Navy Guild stood before him, identified as Hanamida and Ishinari. Hanamida questioned him, noticing he did not have a Slayer badge, and mocked him. He ridiculed Arata as a low-level nobody who had failed to join any guild. He insulted him further as a pathetic normal Slayer who could not even fight properly. A poor soul who had drawn the worst lot in the Slayer gacha. Arata grew frustrated, wondering who these people even were. The two declared that their master would be clearing the Fisher, and that until then, no one else was allowed to enter. They insisted that a normal Slayer like him would only die inside. Arata grew desperate, thinking only of getting inside as soon as possible. Hanamida continued mocking him, sticking out his tongue and saying they would not let him pass. By sticking to the rules, they would earn their share of the bounty, so he should simply back off immediately. Ishinari then unleashed his icicle needle technique. Arata narrowly dodged him with a leap, anger rising as he shouted that he was in a hurry. He warned them that if they wanted to fight, he would deal with them first. He rushed forward to attack with his blade, but Hanamida trapped him instantly, casting a mud trap beneath his feet. The ground swallowed him, leaving him unable to move. Panicked, Arata realized the ground had caught him and he could not escape. Hanamida mocked him once again, explaining that his swamp was bottomless. If Arata failed to get out fast enough, he would die. With a sneer, he warned him to watch out and called him a wild slayer. At that moment, a new voice interrupted them. Ichiko appeared, shouting at them in anger. Arata was shocked, realizing that it was Silver Slayer Aoi Ichika. He wondered why she was there. Ichika moved quickly, using her power to pull him out of the mud trap, telling him she would save him. Once he was freed, Ichika demanded to know why Slayers were fighting among themselves. Arata explained that the two were stopping him from entering the Fisher. Ichika understood and explained further. Lately, there had been a rise in magic Fisher raiders who rushed to conquer them personally. Before any proper investigation could be done, they would raid Fishers for personal gain. She could hardly believe it. Hanamida and Ishinari reacted nervously to her presence. Hanamida noted that the guild master trusted her to provide support. Ishinari, however, muttered that she was only a support type and that their actions were for their master. They tried to assure each other not to be scared, but in the end, they decided they had to stop her no matter what, and they launched an attack on Ichika. Annoyed, Ichika muttered that the sudden assault irritated her. She hated fighting, but she prepared to defend herself. She turned to Arata, telling him they would have to fight together against the two. Arata admitted that he had never fought with others before, but reluctantly agreed. She thanked him, then channeled her support magic into him. Her power of Merlin Schnell filled him, surrounding his body with a glowing blue aura. Arata was stunned, realizing that his body felt different. Ichika assured him that fighting would now be easier than before. She promised to keep supporting him with her skills, asking him to focus on taking them down. Arata accepted and charged at the two enemies with incredible speed. Seeing this, Hanamida and Ishinari panicked. They noticed that Arata was moving much faster than before and realized that he was using her support skill. With newfound strength, Arata unleashed his Soot Slayer blade and struck them both, knocking them out instantly. He felt a rush of energy, thinking that his body felt unbelievably light. He understood that this was the result of her support skill. Curious about what had happened to his stats, he checked his status. The window revealed his attack at 20, defense at 10, and mana at 90. Shock ran through him. His mana rise was insane. Ichika checked on him, asking if he had slashed them with the blade. Arata clarified that he had only hit them with the back of his weapon. Relieved, she admitted that was good and mentioned how embarrassing it was that these attackers had been from her own guild. Arata thought about it, realizing she was a water slayer, which meant she was from Takatora's guild. Ichika thanked him, acknowledging that he was pretty strong, and then asked for his name. He introduced himself as Arata. She introduced herself as Ichika from the Navy Guild, and asked about his guild. Arata hesitated, embarrassed, since he did not belong to any guild. Before the conversation could continue, they noticed Hanamida and Ishinari fleeing. The two shouted that they would have to report the incident to their master Takatora. The mention of Takatora's name left Arata shocked. Ichika muttered about that man, noting how he was doing things like this, and decided that she would have to report it to Rei. Arata's thoughts burned with anger as he cursed Takatora to himself. Ichika refocused and told Arata that they needed to clear the place quickly. She noted that guild members would be arriving soon, but insisted she could fight alongside him. With Rei's permission, she offered to go ahead together. Arata asked in disbelief if she meant with him. She explained that even lower-ranked areas had been showing abnormal situations lately, and that she was more skilled at support anyway. She reminded him of the buff earlier, the one that had made fighting easier. Arata agreed wholeheartedly, thanking her for making such a difference. She smiled, insisting they clear the fissure together. She acknowledged that it might be dangerous for him to act alongside a Silver Slayer, but the magic fissure was right in front of them, and they could not pass it up. Arata accepted without hesitation. She agreed enthusiastically, and declared that they should go. Ikiyomi instructed Arata to follow her closely, and he agreed with determination. A gate appeared before them, and the system displayed a message announcing the commencement of the capture of the magic fissure West End. They stepped inside, and began moving forward. The place shocked Arata with how filthy it was. Ikiyomi explained that the inside of a magic fissure was another dimension, unpredictable in its form, so they had to stay cautious. Arata agreed, and kept moving. As he looked around, he noticed no signs of any magic beasts, or even his brother. Though he had not expected to meet him so easily, he was still anxious, remembering Kuji's warning that in his current state he would turn to ash in no time. He vowed to use this opportunity to learn how to fight and focus on leveling up. At that moment, a monster appeared. Both were surprised to see a goblin of level 3. Arata, though nervous, reminded himself that goblins were the weakest among magic beasts. With his blade, he cut its throat while calling out his attack. When it was defeated, he smiled with relief, convinced he could handle this much. Soon, a group of goblins appeared, which left him unsettled. He doubted whether he could fight them all, but Ikiyomi used her power to strengthen his status and urged him forward. With renewed courage, Arata charged at the goblins, defeated them, and rose from level 5 to level 6. Ikiyomi praised his efforts, noting that with her support, he could even handle a bronze-rank opponent. Grateful, Arata acknowledged her buff skills and admitted he could feel power surging through him. Ikiyomi grew overjoyed at his compliments, boasting proudly that she was known as the linchpin of guild support. While she spoke, another goblin tried to ambush her from behind. Arata noticed and called out in panic. Ikiyomi, startled, quickly cast a water shield around herself to block the attack, then struck back with her water flash skill, killing the goblin. Arata was impressed by her quick reflexes and ability to use multiple skills seamlessly. He realized her level of experience was far beyond his, and that he needed to become just as strong. Ikiyomi noticed him standing still, and asked what was wrong. Nervously, Arata admitted that he wanted to grow stronger quickly, and fight in a way that allowed him to protect people like her. She smiled and understood. Suddenly, a massive number of goblins surrounded them. Ikiyomi remarked that Arata would first have to fight a whole lot. Shocked by the irregular situation, Arata wondered how so many had gathered, but Ikiyomi remained calm. With her support skills, notifications appeared repeatedly, showing his levels rising. Determined to level up, he pushed through, while Ikiyomi cheered his progress. Soon, the system confirmed he had jumped from level 6 to level 10 in one go. Another notification followed, granting him a new skill called Blast Cannon at level 1. Even as he tried to process this, another large wave of goblins arrived, far greater in number than before. Ikiyomi grew frustrated, realizing barriers or simple attacks would not be enough. They needed to strike before being overwhelmed. She asked Arata if he could attack from a distance. He thought back to his new skill and decided to adapt like Ikiyomi. Activating Blast Cannon, he fired at the goblins, tearing through their bodies with precise strikes. One by one, they fell until he had cleared them. Ikiyomi smiled at his performance, and Arata felt relieved to have met her expectations. She then suggested they head for the boss, and Arata agreed. The system soon notified that his level had risen again, from 10 to 12. As they advanced, they reached a tunnel. Standing before it, Ikiyomi sensed the presence of the boss and warned Arata to proceed cautiously. He agreed, but before they could move further, a voice addressed them. They froze in surprise and looked ahead, where a monstrous figure sat holding a spear. The system identified it as the boss, an ogre at level 15. Arata froze when he saw the boss before him. He told himself this was no time to be intimidated. As his words left his mouth, the boss stood up. Arata noticed strange sounds coming from it and wondered if it was speaking in the language of the Magai, a tongue he could not understand. The boss gave no response and instead raised its spear, releasing thunder that surged toward both him and Ikiyomi. Ikiyomi stepped forward and told Arata to leave it to her. She cast her water shield to protect them, but the thunder was too strong. The power of lightning overwhelmed her barrier, shattering it completely and knocking her to the ground. Shocked, Ikiyomi realized that this was bronze rank power, and it carried the lightning attribute. The boss intensified its thunder, forcing Arata to admit he could not close the distance against such continuous strikes. Ikiyomi steadied herself, rose again, and promised to guard while he looked for an opening. The boss launched another thunder attack. Ikiyomi strained to block it with her water power, struggling under its force. Arata called out in worry, but she reassured him she was fine. Arata thought to himself that he could not always hide behind her protection. After a moment's decision, he told her to hold her ground while he moved, positioning himself to the side of the boss. He found the right moment and activated his shoot cannon. His blast struck the boss's weapon, breaking it apart and sending the top half flying across the battlefield. Ikiyomi was thrilled to see his successful attack, but the broken piece did not fall harmlessly. The boss hurled it directly at Arata. He realized he would not make it in time. Though he tried to block, the jagged fragment pierced through his body, and blood poured from his mouth. Ikiyomi panicked and rushed to his side. She quickly raised a water shield to keep the boss from striking again, and placed her hands over his wound. Using her recovery skill, she began healing him. The bleeding slowed, and the injury began to close. Arata opened his eyes. Ikiyomi, relieved, asked if he could still fight even with only first aid. Gathering himself, he thanked her and declared that he could continue. The boss then charged forward, moving faster than expected for its massive size. Both Ikiyomi and Arata were startled. She cried out that it was rushing straight at them. The creature hammered its fists into her shield, blow after blow. She tried to reinforce it with all her strength, but the relentless punches shook her defenses. Arata assessed the situation, realizing brute force alone would crush them. The only way was to stop its movements and take it down in one decisive strike. Observing carefully, he noticed a small opening near the creature's neck. If he aimed there, he could succeed. Rising to his feet, he prepared himself. Ikiyomi asked if he could manage it, and he answered with confidence. As she held her shield, the boss noticed Arata moving to the side and swung a massive punch toward him. The sheer size of the hand terrified him, but he steadied his nerves and activated his new skill. With a powerful blast from his shoot cannon, he staggered the boss, giving them the opening they needed. Ikiyomi shouted for him to strike now. Arata gripped his sword tightly, determined not to remain protected forever. Ikiyomi enhanced him with her support, boosting his strength, and urged him to cut the monster down. Seeing her strain, yet still placing her trust in him, Arata smiled. With renewed resolve, he charged toward the boss, leapt into the air, and swung his blade down with all his might. Arata swung his blade with full force and severed the boss's head, killing it instantly. The system window confirmed the boss's defeat, and his level rose from 12 to 13. Ikiyomi, overjoyed, walked up to him and raised her hand for a high five. Surprised at first, Arata smiled and returned the gesture. With the boss defeated, the gate began to close. Both of them hurried toward the exit. As they ran, Arata urged Ikiyomi to get out quickly. The two stepped outside just in time, and the gate vanished behind them. Looking at his hands, Arata thought about how he had not found his brother, but once again he had grown stronger. The thought left him dizzy, and his legs gave out, forcing him to sit down in the middle of the road. Ikiyomi rushed over, worried by his condition. She pointed out that he was badly hurt, but Arata apologized to her instead. Concerned, she took his hand and told him they should leave together. Arata wondered in confusion if they were heading to the infirmary again. Thinking he wasn't that badly injured, the scene shifted to the Navy Guild's building. Ikiyomi led Arata inside, where he sat on a sofa in one of the rooms. She handed him a cloth and told him to wait there, suggesting he change out of his dirty clothes if he wanted, while she went to file her report. She left the room, and Arata looked puzzled at the mention of a report. 15 minutes passed. Arata grew restless and walked to the room where Ikiyomi had gone. Pressing his ear to the door, he muttered to himself that she was taking a long time, and wondered if this was even the association infirmary. At that moment, a girl came running down the hall in a rush. She tripped, nearly falling, but Arata caught her in time and asked if she was all right. His expression shifted to sudden seriousness as memories stirred. He quickly apologized and ran off in panic. As he sprinted, he thought about the girl he had just seen. If his memory was correct, she was the master of the Navy Guild. The realization filled him with dread, since if she questioned him, he would be in serious trouble. The guild master, surprised by his sudden flight, watched him go in confusion. The scene moved to the guild master entering the same room where Ikiyomi was giving her report. Smiling, she welcomed Ikiyomi back and praised her work. Ikiyomi, still upset, insisted that she needed to talk. The guild master noticed her distress and asked what had happened. Bursting out in frustration, Ikiyomi declared that someone was the worst, furious that he used people however he pleased. The guild master tried to calm her down, slowly regaining composure. Ikiyomi explained about Goto Takura. The guild master, taken aback, repeated the claim that he had been hogging a magic fisher. Ikiyomi, still troubled, lamented that someone like him could be part of their guild. The guild master considered this carefully, and told her she would decide how to deal with him. In her thoughts, she resolved to handle Takatora personally, but more importantly, she remembered the boy she had seen earlier, Arata. Meanwhile, Arata walked alone down a road, still unsettled by his close call the day before. He thought about how dangerously close he had come to running into the Navy Guild's master. Ahead of him, he noticed a child crying, while a slayer struggled to shield the child with flames pressing in from a monster's attack. The sight left Arata stunned. Seeing the child and the slayers being pushed back, his shock turned to anger. Without hesitation, he charged toward the flame-wielding monster, ready to strike. Arata looked at the slayer's power and thought it was useless. He launched his shoot cannon attack at the monster, and the flames from the beast's mouth stopped immediately. The other slayer was shocked to see this. With the blast of the attack, Arata made his entry, and the slayer grew nervous, wondering if he was also a slayer. Black aura began to rise from Arata's hands, leaving the slayer stunned. Arata then drew his sword, which left the man even more confused as he tried to understand the strange skill. It was nothing like the 5 known attributes. At that moment, the 2-headed beast recovered and turned toward Arata. Before it could act again, Arata struck with his sword, slicing the creature clean in half. The monster turned to ash and vanished. From a balcony above, a man had been watching with a smile. Seeing Arata's skill, he muttered to himself that things were finally getting interesting. The scene shifted to the general headquarters of the Japan Slayer Association. In a meeting room, a man addressed the 4 top guild slayers, beginning the Council of 5 Heavens. This man was Jinisuke Doju of the Seiwa Guild, a golden slayer. The other 4 were introduced as well. Red Kuji from the Lion Flame Guild, Rei Isaki from the Navy Guild, Takuro Najihara from the Jade Sky Guild, and Shine Himori from the Kaisen Guild. Doju opened the meeting by stating that abnormal magic fissures were appearing more often and needed close monitoring. He asked if there were any reports. Kuji explained that even a bronze fissure had gone berserk recently, and released an overwhelming number of magic beasts. Isaki added that some bosses had appeared far stronger than their assigned ranks. Kuji laughed and called it good training for slayers, but Najihara disagreed, insisting it was still an abnormal situation. The two exchanged heated words before Kuji calmed down and returned to his seat. Isaki pointed out that the frequency of incidents had only risen recently and questioned the cause. Doju suggested that something was changing on the side of the magic beasts, and although their nature was still not fully understood, that very change might be the key to uncovering the truth. He ordered everyone to report any unusual findings, no matter how small. The others acknowledged his instruction. Looking at the next set of papers, Isaki asked about the irregular. Doju confirmed and explained that while little was known, intelligence suggested this figure was moving between fissures without ever registering as a slayer. Isaki noted that his reasons were still a mystery, but that such behavior raised suspicion of changes happening among slayers as well. She revealed that someone like that had appeared at their guild the day before, someone with a skill unlike anything ever seen, as reported by Ikiyomi, though he vanished soon after. Hearing this, Najihara thought about the strange skill. Isaki continued, suggesting that his skill might be so unique that he felt he didn't belong to any guild. Najihara then wondered if he could be one of the magi. His words shocked Isaki, Doju, and Kuji. Kuji angrily dismissed the idea and accused him of speaking nonsense. Isaki turned to Kuji with surprise, realizing he had met the boy as well. Kuji admitted he had, but insisted the boy could not be magi, saying that he burned with fire. Najihara laughed at this, claiming it was just a joke, though Kuji grew angry while Najihara sank into thought. Doju ended the debate by saying that for now, capturing the boy was optional. The association had tried to put him under surveillance, but if he had slipped away, so be it. Without proof, a Real warrant could not be issued. At this point, Cheyenne Inamori spoke for the first time, saying there was no need to obsess over him, then stood and excused herself, claiming she had an important tea party waiting. As she left, she noticed a camera above the door and stopped in surprise. The meeting returned to Doju, who reminded everyone not to overlook even the smallest changes and to be ready for anything, as the battles ahead would only grow harsher. Somewhere else, someone was secretly watching the council's meeting on their screen. On the screen, it was revealed that the one watching the council meeting was Takura. As he observed, he thought to himself that even the Gods 7 and the 5 heavenly kings considered the irregular a dangerous troublemaker. He realized that the boy had become a presence too significant for both the guilds and the association to ignore. If he could capture him, his influence within the association would grow, and conflicts would cease. His thoughts sharpened as he considered his plan. To him, it was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The most important step to capturing the irregular was gathering information. Based on what he had collected, the irregular possessed a skill of light, and the other person from that time had likely undergone a magi transformation. With this reasoning, he deduced where Arata must be at the moment. Rising from his chair, he decided he would deal with this dangerous element sooner rather than later. Soon after, a new gate appeared in the middle of a crowded street. Panic spread among the public as they screamed and fled, calling for slayers to arrive. Arata spotted the gate and moved toward it, intending to raise his level further. Just then, Takura appeared before him, blocking his path. Arata's anger flared instantly at the sight of him. Takura provoked him, remarking that it had been a long time since he had shown himself, mocking him for still clinging to life. He declared that Arata had no freedom and would be apprehended to face the association. Arata furiously shouted back, demanding that he stay out of his way. Ignoring this, Takura taunted him further, bringing up the day when his brother had transformed into a magic beast. He sneered that Arata's brother was now on the run, a disgusting monster. The words struck Arata deeply, filling him with rage. Takura continued, promising to dispose of his brother himself. Arata erupted with fury, shouting that Takura had gone too far, and unleashed his burst cannon at him. Takura only laughed at the attack, recognizing it as the same unusual blast skill from before. With ease, he erased it using his ice power. Arata was stunned that his attack had been destroyed so easily. Determined, he rushed forward with his sword, but Takura dismissed it as too slow and useless. He countered with his ice beast form, a beast-shaped power that smashed into Arata. Despite trying to block with his sword, Arata was thrown back. The attack struck fast and heavy, leaving him rattled. Takura mocked him, asking if that was all he had. He dismissed the irregular strength as nothing more than an unseen technique with no meaning. Arata forced himself up again, frustrated that even his burst cannon and blazing shadow blade had been neutralized so easily. He began to question if victory was possible against a golden slayer. Seeing him rise again irritated Takura, who questioned if he still had the strength to resist. In response, Arata used a smoke screen, filling the area with thick clouds. Takura assumed he was trying to escape, but quickly noticed the incoming streams of smoke. Realizing it was a diversion, with his ice power, he formed a sword and destroyed the smoke, declaring he could read such a tactic. From within the haze, Arata suddenly charged and clashed against him, their swords meeting head-on. Arata shouted that this would be Takura's end, but Takura only laughed. He declared his ambition to rise as one of the 5 heavenly kings, to seize the Deep Blue Guild, and to bring the association under his control. Arata responded with defiance, insisting he would never allow it, and that Takura was unfit for such a position. Takura scorned him, declaring that the lowly should remain crawling on the ground. He claimed to live in a different world from trash like Arata, boasting that even his sword was far beyond Arata's. The words enraged Arata, who revealed the truth. The orb had originally been his. If Takura had not stolen it, his brother would never have become a magic beast. He screamed that it was all Takura's fault, and launched into a blind fury of attacks. Takura blocked them, but recognized a sudden surge of intensity, far greater than before. Still, he reasoned that even if Arata had awakened, this was the limit of his strength. Yet, as he fell back under the pressure, Arata was shocked to see him retreat. Takura then proposed that he surrender quietly, and let himself be captured. He unleashed his Ice Emperor's prison, freezing the ground around them. Arata's legs were caught in the ice, locking him in place. Panic spread through him as he realized he could no longer move. Takura then summoned sharp shards of ice and launched them at him. They struck with a devastating blast, leaving Arata gravely injured and unconscious. Takura approached the fallen boy, mocking him as pathetic for passing out from such an attack. He muttered that he could lie to the association however he pleased, then raised his sword to finish the job. But before he could strike, 2 figures arrived, forcing him to stop. It was Rei Isaki and Ikiomi, both glaring at him with furious eyes. Takura's reckless fight with Arata was interrupted when Rei Isaki arrived, her voice sharp with anger. She accused him of causing chaos in the city center by clashing with another slayer in public. Takura, unfazed, remarked on the guild master's sudden appearance, but Isaki revealed that she had been keeping an eye on him and knew he acted freely whenever she was not present. He defended himself by pointing out that Arata was an irregular, yet Isaki challenged him, questioning if that gave him the right to beat Arata so mercilessly. While this confrontation unfolded, Ikiyomi rushed to Arata's side, reassuring him and healing his battered body with her powers. Arata slowly regained consciousness, recognized Isaki, and tried to rise, but Ikiyomi insisted he remain still and rest. Even so, his fury toward Takura burned through, leaving Ikiyomi unsettled by his reaction. Takura taunted her for helping the irregular, warning that doing so would put her against the association. But Isaki dismissed him, pointing out that no capture order had been issued, and that she would file a report herself, placing Arata under Navy Guild surveillance. Takura laughed at her resolve, but Isaki shut him down, declaring that she and Ikiyomi would personally supervise Arata, and that he would not be allowed to interfere. Irritated, Takura reminded her of his rank as a Golden Slayer and pressed closer, suggesting they expand the Navy Guild together with the backing of the Goto Corporation. Isaki's patience snapped, and she warned him not to come any closer. Smirking, Takura left, vowing that she would one day recognize his strength and righteousness. Though furious at his words, Isaki remained composed. Once he was gone, she ordered Ikiyomi to take Arata to the infirmary while she stayed behind. Arata awoke later in the Navy Guild infirmary, confused about where he was. As he tried to get up, Ikiyomi appeared, asking if he planned to run again. Seeing her startled him, and she admitted she had many questions, but also noted Rei's unusual delay. Her cheeks turned red as she spoke. Then she left suddenly, muttering about a bad feeling and telling Arata to stay put. Outside, she worriedly searched for Isaki, only to find her wandering nearby. Relieved but exasperated, Ikiyomi pulled her along, asking how she could get lost in such a simple place. Isaki, embarrassed, admitted she had followed the signs but somehow lost her way. Ikiyomi scolded her for being so hopeless with directions despite her incredible strength. A thought that left her quietly puzzled as she dragged the guild master back to Arata's room. Inside, Ikiyomi apologized for the delay. Arata listened quietly as she questioned why he had fled the guild earlier and why he had fought Takura so fiercely. Isaki then stepped forward, explaining that by operating unregistered, he had drawn the association's attention as an irregular. She told him that if he registered as a slayer, he would gain protection, rewards, and support, and asked if there was a reason he could not do so. Arata stayed silent, his mind consumed with worry for his brother. Sensing his unease, Isaki made the decision to step away, announcing they would leave it for now. Ikiyomi lit up with excitement, realizing this meant they could finally go out, though she wondered if Rei would be alright. Her thoughts quickly shifted toward dinner, and soon the three of them were seated at a restaurant. Arata found himself staring at the meat on the table, his mouth watering. He realized he had not eaten a proper meal in a long time, and thought about resting for a bit before resuming his search for his brother. Ikiyomi encouraged him to eat freely, reminding him it was on the guild's tab, while Isaki echoed the offer with calm assurance. Torn between guilt and hunger, Arata finally gave in, thanking them and digging into the food with delight. The taste overwhelmed him. It was refined, light, and unlike anything he had eaten before. Ikiyomi enjoyed her own portion happily, while Isaki agreed with her. Watching them, Arata quietly wondered if he would have ever shared a meal like this with them had he not obtained the orb. Isaki, noticing his tension, explained she simply wanted him to relax and started with small talk. She reminded him that as a new slayer, he could ask her anything. Ikiyomi enthusiastically pointed out that even guild members rarely had the chance to speak directly with Rei. Seizing the opportunity, Arata asked how guilds located magic fissures. Rei explained the process of fissure prediction, likening it to earthquake forecasting. Factors like geomagnetism, gravity, and past cycles of disturbances were analyzed and combined, though accuracy was only about 60%. Arata absorbed the explanation carefully, relieved to have his doubts cleared. Ikiyomi, however, noted with surprise how casually Rei was treating him. Before the moment could last, Rei's phone buzzed with an urgent warning. Rapid geomagnetic fluctuations and spatial convergence had been detected, predicting a magic fissure near the LK building in Nogawa within the hour. The alert also warned of the possibility of high rank or even super rank monsters. Rei immediately shifted into command, calling on Ikiyomi. She responded without hesitation, ready to go. Arata, fired up with determination, demanded to join them as well. Isaki eventually allowed Arata to join the mission, but only under Ikiyomi's watch. She acknowledged that Arata and Ikiyomi were working well together, yet warned that letting his guard down could be fatal. Arata slammed his hand on the table with determination, promising to clear the task. Inwardly, he reminded himself that the fissure was rated silver rank, possibly even higher. He had leveled up enough until now. He believed he could do it, and more importantly, he had to. Soon, Arata and Ikiyomi reached the predicted location of the gate. Ikiyomi explained that the fissure was expected to appear around this area, and almost immediately, a rift opened before them. A system window confirmed the appearance. Magic Fissure Dasa. With a clear difficulty of silver rank, Arata recognized the prediction had been correct, and when Ikiyomi asked if he was ready, he assured her with full confidence. Together, they rushed into the gate. Another system message announced the commencement of the capture. Inside, they arrived in what looked like ancient ruins. Arata questioned the strange worlds hidden within these fissures, and Ikiyomi explained they were said to be other realms where magic beasts lived. No one knew for certain, and though most disappeared when the boss was defeated, she believed some places did not. Arata noted the silence and lack of enemies, but Ikiyomi hushed him. She could hear something approaching. From beneath the ground, a sandworm emerged, level 25, striking at them before diving back into the sand. Ikiyomi quickly realized it was hiding again, and focused on the sounds. She warned that more were closing in, several of them, surrounding the two before they even noticed. Concerned, she asked what they should do. Arata told her to leave it to him. He pressed his hand against the ground, concentrated. He visualized the soot spreading, sensing vibrations in the sand to detect their movements. Through this, he could feel the enemy's approach, sword in hand. He waited until the creature surfaced again. With his new technique, the soot shadow blade, he struck, slicing the monster into pieces and watching it disintegrate. Relieved, he thought to himself that as long as he knew their locations, he could fight them. Ikiyomi, impressed by his method, compared it to whack-a-mole and marveled at his ability. Arata explained that during his time in the infirmary, when his body was unable to move, he had thought deeply about new possibilities for his power. By visualizing spreading the soot thinly and connecting with it, he had developed this technique. It was his first attempt in battle, and it had worked perfectly. He then examined the aura around his hand, realizing the soot could be used in many ways beyond just combat. Ikiyomi praised him again, noting that he had not been wasting time but preparing himself. She declared that at this pace, they could handle the situation. Energized, Arata continued to strike down the remaining worms until exhaustion set in. He wondered aloud if they had cleared the area, and concluded that only the boss remained. As they advanced further, Ikiyomi reminded him not to lower his guard, and Arata agreed. They soon entered an area that appeared to have once enshrined something. The sight unsettled Ikiyomi, and she admitted to a bad feeling. Arata agreed and stayed alert. Suddenly, the ground behind them split open, and a massive worm emerged. Arata assumed it was another of the same species, but Ikiyomi corrected him, noting its much larger size and dangerous stinger. The monster attacked from behind, but Arata countered, insisting the same move would not work twice. With his soot shadow blade, he cut through half its body, though the rest slipped back underground. Arata revealed that he had already spread his soot deep beneath the surface, making it impossible for the monster to hide. Ikiyomi praised his strategy, telling him he had grown stronger. Her words made him smile. Looking at her, Arata acknowledged inwardly that he truly had become stronger. And with Ikiyomi by his side, he felt capable of taking on silver-rank monsters or even stronger foes. His confidence was immediately tested as a far more dangerous presence loomed ahead. From the darkness, a colossal monster approached, identified by the system window as Death Scorpion, level 29. Arata and Ikiyomi faced a massive monster, believing it to be the true boss. Ikiyomi had already cut off his tail, but warned about its deadly claws. The beast prepared to strike, but Ikiyomi blocked the attack with her water power, holding it back with all her strength. Watching this, Arata realized the situation was critical. Ichika and Ikiyomi could not endure much longer. He needed to act, and he rushed forward, ready to attack from another direction. The monster noticed his movement and swung its tentacles toward him. Arata narrowly dodged, then felt surprised as he found a water platform forming beneath his feet. Ikiyomi had created it for him, urging him to use it. Arata thanked her and rode the water platform upward, soaring through the air. From above, he leapt down, his water-forged sword slicing through the beast. The monster collapsed and was destroyed. Ikiyomi rushed to him with joy, declaring their victory. Arata also smiled, relieved that they could finally return home. Yet Ikiyomi soon grew uneasy, noticing something unusual. Despite the monster's defeat, no system notification appeared. She explained that the clear notice was missing, something that had never happened before. Arata questioned her concern, but then he too realized the fissure had not closed. He admitted she was right, and wondered if it was possible for a fissure to remain open even after the boss was slain. At that moment, an unfamiliar voice echoed. Arata froze in shock as a new figure appeared. It spoke with amusement, claiming the fight was over the moment the monster's tail was severed. The strange being, a humanoid Magai, remarked on the poison that had been wasted and admitted it had enjoyed watching the fight. Arata stared in disbelief, recognizing the creature as a Magai. Both he and Ikiyomi were stunned that it could talk. Ikiyomi had never seen such a being before. The Magai revealed its ability, reviving the fallen monster through vassalization. It explained how it controlled creatures from a distance, guiding them and forcing them into unpredictable moves to kill slayers. Ikiyomi, shocked and furious, questioned the concept of vassalization. The realization struck her. This Magai had been controlling the boss all along. The Magai confirmed its dominance and mocked them, offering another battle. It restored the monster completely, declaring it a waste not to use its full power. After reviving the beast, the Magai stepped back, content to observe. Arata was unsettled as he realized the creature could control monsters even after they were torn apart. He and Ikiyomi launched a combined assault with their special techniques, cutting the monster down once more. Watching its servant fall, The Magai mocked the outcome as pathetic. It then extended an offer, suggesting that Arata should become its vassal instead, promising to keep him fighting even if his arms and legs were severed. Ikiyomi's anger deepened as she demanded to know what this creature truly was. The Magai opened another gate before them, stating its boredom with the place. It invited them inside, promising a grand welcome, before vanishing into the dark portal. Arata's mind raced as he processed what he had just seen. A fissure within a fissure now stood before them. He realized the Magai might be hijacking fissures and gathering bosses. Ikiyomi agreed, noting this place felt darker and more sinister than any fissure she had encountered. She insisted that if they wished to clear it, they had no choice but to enter. This, she believed, was where the true battle began. Together, they stepped into the gate and emerged inside a massive villa. The place resembled the human world. As they moved deeper inside, Arata commented on the strange resemblance. Ikiyomi warned him to be cautious and wondered if this realm was connected to their own. From above, a monster had been watching them and suddenly descended in an ambush. Arata reacted instantly, unleashing his burst cannon to annihilate it. As he tried to speak further, Ikiyomi urged him to look ahead. Countless vassal monsters approached, all preparing to attack. Arata realized with dread that all of them were under the Magai's control. This was a den overflowing with boss-class monsters. Ikiyomi disapproved of such cruelty, remarking on the tasteless act of forcing Magai to fight one another. Yet she dismissed them as mere puppets. She summoned her magic, assuring Arata that they could still win in their current state. He drew his sword, ready to fight by her side. The two cut through wave after wave of vassals, but with each defeat, more appeared. Arata grew frustrated as the endless waves continued, feeling the fight would never end. Ikiyomi pointed forward, telling him they could not waste time with these grunts and had to hurry toward their true enemy. Arata obeyed, and together they broke through, sprinting deeper into the villa as the vassals chased behind. Eventually, they reached a grand chamber where the Magai sat on a throne, waiting. It greeted them with mocking amusement, claiming boredom at their delay. Arata's eyes widened at the sight of the talking Magai seated before him. The creature acknowledged their victory over its vassals, but assured them it had countless replacements. Ikiyomi's fury grew as she summoned her power, declaring that if they defeated him, his vassals would vanish. She vowed to end him quietly here and now. The Magai licked its lips, amused by her boldness, eager to play. Ikiyomi turned to Arata, advising against engaging directly, and urged that they take him down swiftly. Arata demanded to know why the Magai went to such lengths controlling beasts. The Magai laughed, saying it was simply for fun, turning creatures into vassals and commanding them at will. Rising from his throne, he spoke of humans in the same way, meant only to be ruled by the strong. He declared his right to command, and intended to make them his vassals too. The arrogance filled both Arata and Ikiyomi with rage. Arata steadied himself and asked one pressing question. He wanted to know if there was a way to turn a human who had become a magic beast back to normal. Ikiyomi was surprised by his question, but remained silent. The Magai found it intriguing and guessed that someone close to Arata was the reason behind it. Arata shouted in anger, demanding an answer. His desperation unsettled Ikiyomi, who worried for him. The Magai instead laughed and offered a challenge. If Arata could win, it would reveal the truth. It manipulated its blood, launching droplets toward him. Arata stared in shock, realizing the attack was blood itself. He recognized the danger and tried to counter with his sword and power, but the speed overwhelmed him. Ikiyomi shouted in warning as a soldier rushed from the front, forcing Arata to panic. At the last moment, Ikiyomi shielded him with her water barrier. Arata was stunned that she had saved him, but she had taken the damage herself and was badly wounded. Arata worried, but she reassured him, insisting she was fine. She urged him to finish the Magai while she held off the soldiers. Arata agreed, determined not to let her suffer further. He charged forward, vowing to defeat the Magai quickly. Ikiyomi, meanwhile, focused on healing herself while preparing to deal with the endless vassals. She realized the healing was working, giving her some mobility. She needed to regroup with Arata, but first had to clear the soldiers. She planned a massive strike to wipe them out at once. She unleashed her attack, killing many in a single blow, and felt relief at its success. But more soldiers appeared, spawning infinitely. She noted her power was limited, and she only had a few uses left. Arata pressed his advance against the Magai. The creature studied him, intrigued by his soot ability. It realized Arata was using coagulated soot to stop bleeding, a clever technique. Then it wondered aloud if Arata was from its own side. Arata was confused, questioning what the creature meant by that. He dismissed it, saying he had no interest in its affairs, and insisted on settling the battle. The Magai prepared once more, shaping its blood into attacks. Arata destroyed the incoming strikes with his own power. The Magai escalated, forming sharper, deadlier shapes, pressing him harder. Arata blocked and countered, but the creature grew more entertained, praising his reactions and demanding greater strength. Arata felt the pressure mounting, realizing he would be worn down at this rate. The Magai mocked his limited fighting style, calling him boring, and then turned its attention toward Ikiyomi, threatening to attack her next. At that moment, Ikiyomi struggled alone against the overwhelming numbers. Arata's focus wavered in worry, and the Magai seized the opportunity. hardened blood pierced Arata's body, making him collapse and bleed. The Magai stood over him, mocking his distraction and promising he would soon become its vassal. It prepared another deadly strike, shaping its blood into chains aimed to finish him. Before the blow could land, Ikiomi intervened again, using her water power to block the attack. The Magai grew irritated, snarling at her interruption, claiming it was just reaching the good part. Ikiomi glared back with fury, declaring that the creature had gone too far by harming Arata. She admitted it was stronger than expected, but she refused to yield. Ichika healed Arata, but he still remained unconscious. She reassured herself that it was okay, that he should wake up soon. She urged him silently to hang in there a little longer. The talking Magai mocked her with cruel laughter, saying that Arata was already dead from his strike. Healing him now was pointless. He taunted that Arata had died to protect her, calling it amazing that someone could die for a friend. He said that being cherished like that made her lucky, laughing maniacally. Ichika told him to stop, but the talking Magai pressed further, saying that Arata had died because of her and that it was pitiful. Her mind drifted back to a painful memory, the day when her little brother Minamoto had been devoured by a monster right before her eyes. While she could do nothing but cry helplessly, she tried to calm herself, reminding herself that the talking Magai was only provoking her. She thought about waiting for Arata to recover, but then she decided otherwise. She told herself that she had to do this, that she was no longer the same person she had been back then. She resolved that if the creature used blood skills, then she would counter them. The talking Magai sighed, claiming he was already bored. He said making her his minion would not be a loss. And then he attacked with a surge of bloodshed. Ichika raised her sea shield and blocked the strike. The talking Magai smirked, mocking her shield as a fragile water barrier. The two shields clashed violently. Ichika thought to herself that her water existed to ensure that no one would shed blood anymore. She reminded herself that ever-changing water specialized in support and could mix with anything. She had become a slayer and trained constantly for that very purpose. She then mixed her water shield with his blood shield. The talking Magai clicked his tongue, intrigued by her attempt to mix water with blood, but dismissed it as meaningless, boasting that he could produce plenty more blood. He unleashed even more. Ichika struggled, realizing that at this rate she would be overtaken by the sheer amount of blood. She worried about what she should do. At that critical moment, Arata woke up. Ichika quickly asked if he could fight now. She handed him her water shield and told him to mix water and soot, explaining that this way he could change its state and control it. The reset scan showed 90%. The talking Magai